Hi, I'm Jeff. This is my 2011 Trek First District bike, and it's about 3 years old now, and it has to have the belt and pulleys replaced because the teeth are falling off the belt, and the belt is beginning to jump. So this is part one, and we will take the belt and pulleys off, and then if you watch part two, we'll put new belt and pulleys on. So you can look right here. See, the cogs are falling right off the belt. And I would say there's around about 2,000 to 3,000 miles on this bike now in the cogs. I mean, I could just rip one right off. They fall right off. I've worked with Gates belts in industrial settings before, and actually it's the same failure mode. But you know what? 3,000 miles and I've never touched it, never oiled it, never gotten grease on my pants from a chain. That's fine. Okay, so these are the tools we'll need. The most important is a metric Allen pack. Now, these are color coded, so if you were to write down the colors now and I'm using wrenches later, you could use those colors. You need some sort of spanner wrench. This is a Proto, it's C471, and it's hinged. And you need the hook style, not the pin style. This is just a rubber mallet so you don't beat the frame up. This miniature channel lock will help if the belt tensioning screws are damaged. And then this is some bike tool. This is a Shimano TL FC21. This is to take the screws off the front sprocket. And then a big screwdriver, which really we're not even going to use as a screwdriver. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing is to take the rear tire off. And just take the axle nut off with, I guess this is M5. So just loosen the axle nut, I don't know, maybe 3 turns. Then the rear brake has got to be loosened. So I'll flip the little toggle here to release tension in the wire. And then yeah, this thing's always a pain. Maybe I don't have to do it though. There, I think it'll come up. Perfect. Okay, so now the old belt, here's now the rear tire's off. Now, I'm going to do the belt and both pulleys at the same time. Well, sprockets, I guess they are. Bike people call them sprockets, I call them pulleys, whatever. Because they're worn as well. I mean, it's hard to see, but down in here, actually the teeth are starting to wear into the pulley. So I don't know, maybe you could reuse the pulley, but I'm not going to. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the belt off, and then I'll do the front pulley, then the rear pulley. So these screws here, you could do all 4 of them right now. They're going to have to come off anyways. So technically this side doesn't have to come off, but I'll just get it right now because the camera's a little crooked. It's not straight up. There you go, perfect. So I guess these are maybe called the axle bracket, I'm not really sure, but they hold the rear axle, and they also are in a channel so that the belt can be tensioned fore and aft. Maybe other bikes have them too, I'm not really sure. I've never really maintained a bike with a chain, and this is the first time I've touched this bike for maintenance in 3 years. I'll just put the screws back in. Now, a note here. These little screws here are very problematic. I've had to service the rear tire once. I think I got a flat tire and I retensioned the belt afterwards, and these screws stripped out. So that's why I have this Allen wrench here. The heads on them stripped out. They're pan head screws, which are not really great load bearing screws, and they stripped out. So if your Allen wrench doesn't take these off, here, suppose maybe the head just strips out. you can use a miniature channel lock, grip it, and just crank away. Or you could use a vice grip, you could use whatever you want. But, you know, I'm not guaranteeing that an Allen wrench will be able to get these things off. I've had that where it couldn't do that. In the next video too, I replace those screws every time I service the bike. I mean, I did the first time, and because once you strip the head on them, you know, you don't want to put them back on. So, I think it was $5 from McMaster Car, and I got a whole bag of 25 of them. And now every time, if I take the rear tire off to actually retension the belt or something, or replace the rear tire if I can, I'll put these over here. I replace these screws, which I'll call the belt tensioning jacking screws. Okay, next we can take now we'll take the belt off. Now, this screw here holds in this little frame spacer, which allows the belt to drop through to slide through the rear triangle. This is the only feature of this bike which is unique to a belted bike. This is why, you know, friends ask me, they say, well, hey, I like your belt, I want to put it on my bike. Well, you can't, because there's no hole in your frame. And there must be, I think there's a kingpin on a chain that would allow it. You know, you don't have this hole, so you can't. If you don't have that hole, you can't put a belt on a bike because you can't split the belt. Okay, so now the belt's off. The belt's garbage. I'm going to save it though and use it as a tool here in a minute. But it's garbage at this point. I'll put this back in just so I don't forget about it. I mean, obviously that's going to have to come off to put the belt back on. Okay, and what do we say we'll do first? The front sprocket. So the front sprocket comes off with these 5. It comes off, I forget what it said on the website. This is called a 5-star, I think, or I don't know. You could look. I mean, it's generic to any pedal bicycle has this. So I use this special tool on the back. A big screwdriver would work. Any big flat-headed screwdriver, a huge flat-headed screwdriver would work, or you could just hope that the threaded inserts on the back don't spin. But if they do spin, then you're going to need a tool. You're going to need something to hold them. Because effectively they're the nut. The threaded insert on the back is the nut. You know, and the front is the bolt, I guess it is. So I'll loosen them all. And then I'll come back and get them. I'll take them all the way out after they're all loose. Yeah, this is this Shimano tool. This is the, you know, I bought it off the bike shop near me. I think it was $5. He sold me the one he was using. I'm not really sure what it's called, actually. But maybe if you look at bike tools or that Shimano part number I read at the beginning, you could probably get a similar tool. It's probably for taking this assembly apart on any bike, not specific to a belted bike. Okay, now they're all loose, so now you can just take them off. There's one.
Hold them up.
2. So this is the little back piece, which is the nut. It functions as the nut. It has the outer surface, the diameter is the mating surface so that this thing sits, it doesn't run out around. And then here's the screw here. You know, you can see the slots in it. So you might not need this little tool. I tried it with that big screwdriver over there and it didn't work. And so I asked the guy at the bike shop, and for $5 I could get the right tool. So that's what I did. But there are likely other solutions. Now, These screws, I recommend cleaning of road grime, because if you mess up the threads on these screws or these threaded inserts, then you're going to have a big problem, because you're going to have to probably buy new ones, and it'll be a pain to figure out the part numbers. So, take them, clean them up in your sink or with an old toothbrush or something like that, and get all the sand and grit off them, because anytime it's not just a hardened machine screw, I find threads are just very prone to damage. Okay, so here's the front pulley, or front sprocket as it is on a bike. It's basically in fine shape. The rear pulley is in worse shape. Okay, I mean, it's garbage. We don't need that. Okay, so now we'll do the rear pulley. Here, we'll take the rear pulley off this thing that's called the 9-spline. So here I'll use the belt as a tool. Now, you're not supposed to use the belt as a tool, right? If you read the Gates manual, they tell you not to do this, but I'm throwing it away, so I don't really care. I guess if you weren't throwing it away, you wouldn't want to do this. But you've got to keep something to make this, you don't want the pulley to spin when you hit the spanner nut. So you should probably look at this pretty quick. So the way it works, I'll show it. There's the rear pulley. This black piece that I'm rubbing right now, wiping the grit off, is actually a flange. It's removable. And then there's this rusty nut here with the stars on it. This is a spanner nut. It's a big one. Now, again, you definitely don't want to ruin the threads on that, because that would probably be expensive to replace. So I'll hold this here as my wrench so the pulley doesn't move. Here's the hook-style spanner wrench, and take it right off. There we go. I mean, if yours was super tight, that might be a little more work, or dirty. If it's dirty, really, a clean work surface makes a big difference in this area, because if those threads get messed up, you're going to have a big problem. So now the belt is garbage. We'll throw the belt away. This is this strange flange. Now, this is the CDC type belt from Gates. It's been replaced with what's called a CDX. It has this center track. It's a little bit better. So we don't need this. We do need the spanner nut, and we're going to clean that up with a toothbrush and a little bit of oil. In this whole 9-spline area, we're going to clean that up as well. And this is a spacer. I'll keep the spacer for now, but you'll see we don't need it in part 2. So keep the spanner nut. We don't need any of this. Okay, so there we go. So we got the rear pulley, the front pulley, and the belt are all off. Like I said, those are the CDC style. They've been replaced with a new one, CDX style. Yeah, so, I would recommend cleaning this up. This whole 9-spline. Clean it up with a toothbrush. These clean up, and we'll go to part 2.